Look at quantum physics, an immense quantum mechanical iceberg of possibilities.
Quantum mechanics allows.
Are all realities existing simultaneously? Is there a possibility that all potentials exist side by side? Have you ever seen yourself through the eyes of someone else that you have become?
Who are we? Where do we come from? What should we do? And where are we going?
Why are we here? Well, that is the ultimate question, isn't it?
What is reality?
What I thought was unreal now, for me, seems in some ways to be more real than what I think to be real.
I think the more you look at quantum physics, the more mysterious and wondrous it becomes.
Have you ever thought about what thoughts are made of? Every age, every generation has its built-in assumptions that the world is flat, that the world is round, etc. There are hundreds of hidden assumptions, things we take for granted that may or may not be true. Of course, in the vast majority of cases, historically, these things aren't true. So presumably, if history is any guide, much about what we take for granted about the world simply isn't true. But we're locked into these precepts without even knowing it oftentimes. That's a paradox.
Asking yourself these deeper questions opens up new ways of being in the world. It brings in a breath of fresh air. It makes life more joyful. The real trick to life is not to be in the know, but be in the mystery.
It's time to get wise.
Why do we keep recreating the same reality? Is it possible that we're so conditioned to our daily lives, so conditioned to the way we create our lives, that we buy the idea that we have no control at all? We've been conditioned to believe that the external world is more real than the internal world. This new model of science says just the opposite. It says what's happening within us will create what's happening outside of us.
There were philosophers in the past that said, look, if I kick a rock and I hurt my toe, that's real. You know, I feel that, it feels real, it's vivid, and that means that it's reality. But it's still an experience, and it's still this person's perception of it being real.
Scientific experiments have shown that if we take a person and hook their brains up to certain PET scans or computer technology and ask them to look at a certain object, and they watch certain areas of the brain light up, and then they've asked them to close their eyes and now imagine that same object, and when they imagine that same object, it produced the same areas of the brain to light up as if they were actually visually looking at it. So it caused scientists to back up and ask this question. So who sees then? Does the brain see? Or do the eyes see? And what is reality? Is reality what we're seeing with our brain? Or is reality what we're seeing with our eyes? And the truth is is that the brain does not know the difference between what it sees in its environment and what it remembers, because the same specific neural nets are then firing. So then it asks the question, what is reality?
We're bombarded by huge amounts of information, and it's coming into our body and we're processing it, coming in through our sense organs. It's percolating up, and at each step we're eliminating information, and finally what is bubbling up to consciousness is the one that's the most self-serving.
The brain processes 400 billion bits of information a second, but we're only aware of 2,000 of those. But our awareness of those 2,000 bits of information are just about the environment, our body, and about time.
We're living in a world where all we see is the tip of the iceberg, the classical tip of an immense quantum mechanical iceberg.
If the brain is processing 400 billion bits of information, and our awareness is only on 2,000, that means reality is happening in the brain all the time. It's receiving that information, and yet we haven't integrated it.
So the brain itself is really what is doing all of your sensing. Conversely, the thing that I've always been fascinated about on just a very simplistic level is that when you stub your toe walking, when you bang into something, your toe hurts, but it's really hurting in your brain, and it's your brain that actually perceives the hurt, but you feel it all the way down in your toe.
It's the experiment with the upside-down glasses. This man Slater built these glasses made of prisms and lenses so that you saw things upside down. And he had a group of people wear these glasses, and he asked them to sustain wearing them. It was very uncomfortable for them because they saw people sort of walking upside down. But if they kept the glasses on, then after 2 to 3 weeks, depending upon the individual, then with the glasses on, flip, they saw everything right side up. And if they took the glasses off at that point, flip, they'd see things upside down. So what happens, the way I interpret that, is that the mindset was so strong that with the glasses on, that mindset created a force to cause the neural dendrites to grow in such a way as to create an inversion mirror in the brain. And then once that hardwired structure was built, and you take the glasses off, now it has to dissolve that structure in order to see things the way you expect to see them. That's called neural learning now. We do it all the time.
The eyes are like the lens, but the tape that's really seeing is the back of the brain. It's called the visual cortex. It's right back here. It's like this camera and it's tape. Did you know that the brain imprints what it has the ability to see? Now, this is important. For example, this camera is seeing a lot more around me than what is here, because it has no objection and no judgment. The only movie that's playing in the brain is what we have the ability to see.